Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to the LJL for our final match of the day, Rascal Jesters versus V3. I'm barely middle-cot, and we've got a small hint of Melvin Izzle joining me. How are you doing, man?
I think that we're both just really trying to cope with the rest of the day. With some of the games today have been exhausting for reasons that you'll have to go back and check the VODs if you haven't managed to catch them. I know that you were watching the entirety of the Burning Core Sengoku game earlier that we will refuse to speak of from this week onwards, so hopefully that's the last time those words are uttered in a sentence together. But we should have a more important and more promising game now. Rascal Jester versus V3. We saw Rascal Jester earlier today pull out a pretty cool comp, I must say, with Sejuani, Viego, Yone being the real core, facilitated by a Jhin and Leona in the bottom lane. This is really decisive, just putting your carries of the solo laners and using everybody else to facilitate. And when you do that, you have a good game. And they did have a damn good game.
But a team that didn't have a good game right now was V3. Went for a composition which, on the face of it, looked pretty high damage, but ended up being pretty low damage when you're having to fight into an Ocean Soul, and an Aphelios with a Wit's End and an Immortal Shield Bow. I feel like there were decent performances that game, particularly from Cog and Hollow, but ultimately they weren't quite able to push it forward out the game.
And attention just has to be brought to the fact that you're against a extreme healing comp. It might as well have just been full Vladimirs on the opposition, and only one person bought healing reduction, and that was Cog quite late into the game after the Ocean Soul had been secured, and healing had already been a massive problem up to that point because Ace, in all their wisdom, went for the Everfrost on LeBlanc, which really just kneecapped the team's damage.
Yeah, it never really felt like, even though they got that early advantage, that they were able to assert themselves onto CGA in the way they would have liked. And it's going to be difficult for them to assert themselves this game, you'd imagine, because in our prep, we were talking about V3 and Rascal Jesters actually being very similar teams, but it feels like it's been the Jesters that have always been able to execute just that little bit better.
Earlier in the split, we did have these two match up when they went 2-0 in the first week, and we were saying, well, this will be deciding who's going to be the real dominant force for the split. And for the longest time, Rascal Jester were ahead, but V3 were closely trailing behind. But it was really that last week of the split before we had that 2-week break where V3 went 0-2. They've lost their first game today. And the question is, can they turn it around right now? Because the curse of Sengoku's Copium is coming to get them at 3-7 now. Only 2 wins behind V3. It really does start to beg the question with 2 more games tomorrow. This is the glory of Super Week, that if you come in on poor form, not even poor meta read, I must say, just poor performance looking at it as a team, I wouldn't even say that V3, I looked at their complement, there's fundamental problems here. It was more so just the play itself, the itemization, that they really do need to step up coming into this next game.
Yeah. Fear it, run from it. You cannot escape Sengoku, and you can't escape a Champion Select either, as we will be jumping into that for our final game of the day. Rascal Jesters versus V3. Fans already coming through thick and fast. Irelia and LeBlanc removed by the Jesters, and Renekton taken off the table by V3.
Gotta get rid of that Gwen that we did just see. Obviously, both these top laners, Kanatu and Cog proficient on the pick, able to play it. We will see now an instant Lee Sin. And realistically, the place that we want to put the most focus on in this draft is that mid lane pool, as it is somewhat reflected in Rascal Jester's bans, where Recap has been performing pretty well. When we're doing the assessments in the off-season, or the middle of the split, where we're deciding which realistically was our favorite mid laners, Recap, Ace, Snakeon, a couple of these others were in a bundle in the middle, with Recap pointing out just slightly over the top. And Ace, with every game, I feel like they drop a bit lower down that list. So we really do need to see them get back into good form quickly, because losing this game puts you at a 50% win rate, which is not what you want when you were leading the split for the first 3 weeks.
Definitely not, and it's going to be hard to do that against the Viego. Obviously, a very flexible pick. Could go in Kanato's hands, or Hachimetsu's, or even Recaps. V3 responding with a strong early game duo that I believe they actually played last game, if I recall correctly. No, it was the Jijiao on the enemy team, but it is the Leona locked in for them regardless. Ryan going to be happy to pilot that one again. And the Ziggs wasn't banned in our first rotation. Rascal Jester's pulling it out here.
Now, the question is what you do with this last pick. You can either lock in a CC support, something like the Nautilus, that doesn't have a good matchup into Leona. I could imagine that you see the Thresh even. Alistair is one of those that walks the middle line between them, and also doesn't necessarily give away whether this Ziggs is heading into mid or bot lane, because you can pair that with things like the Kai'Sa, not exactly my favorite champion in the world, but things like that. Jhin also potential, and there is a lot of options that Rascal Jester have left themselves with, whereas V3, you can't really flex the Xin Zhao, you can't really flex the Leona, and you can't really flex the Ashe if they go for that lock-in, so this is going to be them saying, we're just doing a salty run back of last game with the change of jungle coming in.
Yeah, and you'd have to be pretty salty, because it was a difficult game to lose. But there is always the question about how these bot lanes match up, because Hollow and Reiner just not quite on the same tier for me as Soul and Secret. So if we're if we had to draft for these teams, if we had to talk about a matchup that necessarily I wouldn't expect to lose for Rascal Jesters, it would be that bot lane. So I'm perfectly happy seeing Soul on something potentially a little bit weaker, because I back these guys to basically win any lane that's put in front of them. V3 not backing themselves maybe in the jungle early game as much, as removing Volibear from the pool. Rascal Jesters taking away the Galio.
And I must say it's indicative of how V3 are really thinking right now, that they just gave away the Ziggs. Both of these ADCs have shown that they will play it. When you lock in the Leona first, that is an ideal pairing with the Ziggs. You can obviously still flex it to mid to give it to Ace if you really wanted to. And now it's realistically, what kind of options do you have to engage onto the Ziggs? Yes, you have really good gap closers at the moment, but I would still say that despite having such good tools, none of these really answer the Alistair that's going to be in your way, just being a thorn in your side, regardless of which role that Ziggs makes its way to, as now V3 have to really decide which one of their solo laners they're going to throw under the bus, because of the amount of flex picks Rascal Jester have right now, you can really have no definitive answers with a TF locked in place.
Ooh, and this is something that can get punished so hard in laning phase, but he offers you so much pressure outside of it. There's a lot of pick potential, like you already mentioned, and perhaps this gives them a little bit more of that backline access that they so sorely need.
Taking a look, Ace has got a 5 wins on Twisted Fate to date with a 60% win rate. So taking a look at this one coming out right now, it will be the Sejuani and the Yone locked in, almost going for the exact run back that Rascal Jester had. The only difference is they won their game, with V3 finishing off with a Camille.
Yeah, it's a lot of aggression. It's a lot of pick, actually, from V3. And Rascal Jesters opt to go for a little bit more of a team fight style with their picks. Assuming that is going to be the Yone into the mid lane for recap, I feel like this is a champion that could just pressure so easily onto Ace.
Especially with the fact that when Yone does the Soul Unbound, the pop out with the E, they can just jump back when they're going to get CC'd, and it cleanses it. It's an absolutely stupid interaction, might I say, but when you're against things like the Ashe, the Twisted Fate, the Leona, you can buffer a lot of CC, meaning that while they still may go for cleanse, there is no obligation to go for cleanse on the Yone, which is just another one of the many things that make people love this champion.
You're sounding pretty salty there, Melvin as well. And I think that V3 would be pretty salty if they lost this game, because whilst it's a composition that has flaws, it definitely plays towards their win condition, which has more often than not been Kolkrog in the top lane.
And one thing I will say that they have got the Twisted Fate, and most importantly for me, is they have 2 side lanes they can play around. This is something that we see a lot of comps go for, where they draft a weak side with a Twisted Fate, and it doesn't make much sense because you need places to roam to. So now there's a lot of options for Ace. They are on a utility pick. Recap is likely just going to get the free farm in lane, because unless they super overextend, they shouldn't be getting threatened. But realistically, they are going to have the time of their life on this Twisted Fate if they can get to these side lanes and get the matchup snowballing before it goes too far out of control.
We are going to be jumping into game with that, as Hachimecha has taken a little bit of his health bar in trade, as V3 want to get some deep vision. Will be responded to in the bot side with Soul walking forward and looking for a wall potentially. Well, they could just try and grab some poke onto Hollow in the early game.
We do have Cog going for the Ignite TP and Grasp versus the bog standard Conqueror of Kanatu's Viego right now. Is something to note, because they went for that invade, Cog did start the E. Does mean that they are less susceptible to a level 2 gank, but removes a lot of their pressure they can have onto this Viego, who with just the Q and the Conqueror can do an insane amount of damage. Is something that Cog is going to have to play the first 3 levels or so very conservatively now, because they do not realistically have the tools to actually fight back initially.
They may run on to Kanatu here. Does use that Blade of the Rune King, as the V3 top laner will respond and gets hit back onto himself. I want to touch briefly on this Sejuani pick, because we often see this champion piloted in the top lane, has been seeing a resurgence in the jungle as well, and Rascal Jesters have paired it up with these double melee solo laners of the Viego and the Yone. Is this a pairing that you're a fan of?
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. The fact that Viego can do the double hit once they proc an ability on somebody, Rhino fishing with an E right there, means that you can almost immediately stack up the Sejuani's Frost passive of the E, which just lets you get a really easy stun. And when you have the Viego, who has their own stun, when you have the Yone, who has their own CC, and kind of abilities like the ultimate that you really do need to be hitting in fights, but more importantly, when you have Soul on the Ziggs, you can chain CC for long enough that somebody will just die 100-0 if they were not prepared for it.
It's actually going for the early ward onto the Pixel Brush, so when Hachimecha moves into the rear, that, as you'd expect, in a few minutes' time will be spotted out, as Hollow fires that Hawkshot and finds the Rascal Jester's jungler, just clearing through his walls. Did opt to skip his Raptors, actually, which isn't a path that I've been seeing too much. Traditionally, you see junglers skipping over the Krogs if they want to go for that faster play towards the top side. As Recapped is just showing Ace what it's like to play against a Season 11 champion.
I think it's one of those ones where we had Hachimecha skip that camp so they could be on the top side, but now Muujin will look for the invade. Does have a Camille, so it's always easy to follow. Oh, gets the smite.
Oh, and that's got to feel so bad. Sejuani's early skirmishing power, not enough to match up against the Xin Zhao. Inato will look down a little bit, but it's still advantage going over to V3, as Muujin has got perfect line onto this top lane Scuttle Crab, and could probably pick up the bottom lane one as well.
I feel like we have to acknowledge the fact that while V3 did lose their last game, it wasn't off of anything as obvious as when the Hawks lost their first game. Yeah. It was more so just looking at saying, okay, well, it was kind of just you gradually let the game slip away, but not in a dramatic fashion, just in a way of you didn't execute on your fights well enough. And it just means that that's really difficult to come back from when you have a game immediately after, right? Because you're looking at going, what did we realistically do wrong as V3? And now they're just trying to accelerate even more to cover up for some of those gaps, because one of the ways you can interpret is your numbers were just a bit too low, and trying to snowball early covers that up effectively, which Muujin is getting done so far on this Xin Zhao, and you need to do, because if you allow Sejuani to hit level 6, the utility this champion offers in any gank is absolutely insane.
Yeah, and when you pair that up with the Fate Sealed from Recap or the Super Mega Inferno Bomb from Soul, it's a disgusting chain of both damage and CC that can be really effective against the squishy composition that V3 have drafted for themselves. Reyna, the only one that could really stand up, as we see the first jungle route graphic coming through. Sejuani carrying her Krugs, and Muujin going towards the top side as Secret, trying to find an engage. Reyna trying to find one as well, but it is the Alistar who's being kited away, and V3 win out in the early engage.
And part of the reason that Hachimecha went for that initial clear was they wanted to avoid any aggressive wards that V3 had got onto the Raptor pit and not give any info away. But in doing so, we do have V3 invading over and getting that smite steal, which does put them quite far ahead already with the pickaxe in inventory against the 2 ruby crystals of Hachimecha. Muujin is on this top side though, they are on ward. Camille is not level 6, so they can't guarantee the gank. But must say that they are doing a fine job in this lane so far, considering that they did end up starting that E on the Camille.
Yeah. Mujin may just want to make the gank happen anyway. Is still in the top side. Hachimecha coming over to cover as well. No real opportunity to get an engage here, even though Cog is running this Ignite teleport, so doesn't have access to the flash, and will just be recooling here.
Using this TP to get back to lane in most likelihoods does mean that with this dragon available, though, they do not have the same pressure. I'm curious to see what Kanatu does with this. If they are just going to immediately teleport back and make sure that the lane is safe for them, because they don't, well, they just have eyes on Mujin now because he showed up mid, so you don't really want to TP back to this wave. As you can see, that's why both the TF and the Xin Zhao are immediately running up, just trying to put them in a really awkward spot that requires Hachimecha to bail them out.
Yeah, we see Soul and Secret get a shove in the bot lane, but they're just going to be resetting now, which gives Hollow and Reyna a little bit of a window to try something out. Recap is moving into the river just to clear out a little bit of vision. And we'll come back with a Soul Unbound there. Very, very cool. I've seen actually a little bit of an interesting itemization choice from Hollow here. Has opted to pick up the Null Magic Mantle, obviously matching up against the Ziggs. Is this something fairly standard in this lane?
I wouldn't call it standard, but it makes a lot of sense considering if you think about the people who are going to show up in this lane, it's going to be a Sejuani and 2 magic damage champions. As they are engaging right now, isn't going to get much done, but will really act as a lot of effective HP for this Ashe, considering they are going to want to go towards the Wit's End later in most worlds. Another smite fight.
Secret does have flash, but they're diving onto Hachimecha or early. Recap is in the backside, could go for the Fate Sealed, but opts not to use it, and that just means that V3 have even more pressure in this bot side. Could use this to make a play onto the Drake, but with the resets coming out, just going to go and spend their gold.
So let's take stock of the map right now. We do have Ace getting their first summoner swap over to Ignite. Taking a look around, that does enable them to look for picks as the play is happening mid. I don't think it will result in anything because they didn't get the initial lockup. If you do get a single piece of CC, I'll stop there.
Oh, as Kanatu is getting dived on into the top side, Ace coming through with a very late gold card. Does land onto Kanatu, who will be falling. Soul actually making an appearance as well. Cog trying to kite away as Recap is in the area as well. It's a late 2v2, and with the flash forward, the fate is sealed for Cog. He falls down.
That was most certainly an anime moment on the Yone right there. Looked very cool and holds them still for Soul to be able to pick up that assist right there. Is going to not be too much of a punish for the double TP investment, but watch right here. It's just a little bit of a scrap happening. Like, frankly, this is just top lane things where it's communicating, hey, I'm running up right now. Immediate destiny holds them still, and you can see the instant TP from Soul to get over here and try and at least keep Cog accountable. When you don't have the flash on a Camille, as soon as you force in with the hook shot, you really don't have a way out. And watch this on Recap. The confidence, like, hey, you can't dodge me, absolutely pops them, is rewarded with the kill. Does mean, though, that they are now a bit susceptible to getting ganked without that flash.
Yeah, and that wasn't a flash Q, by the way. That was a Q flash. That was, I'm casting this, and it is killing you. And getting snowballing on the Yone early is going to feel very nice. Like you mentioned, it was a very big summoner spell investment from Rascal Jester, so maybe this is something that V3 can look to play around. Obviously, they use the Destiny Gate from Ace, but he still has access to that teleport. So for the next few minutes, V3 will have the advantage on the map, and that frees up Mujin to take away this Rift Herald.
I'm going to throw it out there that Soul TP top and is still up in CS.
Oh, but he might be down in the play as Hollow is taken very low. The Mega Inferno Bomb comes out and Secret picks up that one. Will fall to the tower, actually. So it's a 1-for-1, but not really.
It's effectively a 1-for-0 because you're just going to back a Secret there. Like, the XP goes over, but the fact you don't get any return gold is just a kick in the face. Speaking of, Cog looking to try and escape here with the heel toe, but they do have a jungler in range.
Spectrum Wall does land onto the Camille. As Hachimecha is actually recalling, doesn't recognize that Mujin is here. He is going to be able to dash over the wall. The Heartbreaker defensively means that Kanatu is able to survive, and the aggression is dissuaded. Recap is in the area, doesn't have flash, but does have the Fate Sealed, and he's just missing it. Mujin picks up the kill onto the Sejuani, and here comes Secret from the bot side of the map. Rascal Gestures fumbled the play a little bit, but turn it back around. Wonderful Crescent Guard, but it will not be enough, as Kanatu will pick up another kill in the fight.
This is Rascal Jester asserting their dominance in the first place spot. They've got to win this game if they're to overtake DFM and maintain their first place position. Coming into the games tomorrow, it is a tough old schedule for some of the teams, as we will check the replay right now. And this is just, you don't have your support with you. We know that they were roaming up from top side and coming on down, so this is just decisive play from Rascal Jester bot. Getting the Enchanted Crystal Arrow is also something to note. Immediate kill, and yeah, Secret dies, but outside of the flash on Soul, there is really nothing lost from this play, as it returns over to the top side. And the most important part about this for me is the fact that Muujin didn't get to do anything with the Rift Herald initially because they tried to force the ticket and just get punished in return. The AO does not need to actually do anything proactive here, they just wait and then go in for the assist at the end. Unfortunate by recap right here, not accounting for the immediate dash. It looked pretty silly, but because they had Secret off of the base from that previous bot dive to come and save the play, it actually pays off for them. Followed up by the insane hook shot. It will be now just V3 securing themselves the dragon in return on the minimap, but is not going to be anything outside of that. Still behind in gold by a little bit over 500.
But that was Rascal Jester's really sort of breaking the rules, cheating a little bit. One of the basic tenets of competitive League of Legends is that if you're making a play on one side of the map, you are not making a play on the other one. But they are able to pull it off. They were able to make it work. Like you mentioned, Secret on that reset, execute coming through for the bot side, making his way up to the top lane, able to help out his team and able to secure them more kills. And now I look at who's got the gold for Rascal Jesters. It's Kanatu and Recap. These are your two superstar players, two of your big carries, and they are fully enabled this game.
Soul, not too much of a slouch themselves with the tier and the full Liandries due to that mage item cheapening that happened a little while ago. So taking a look right now, I also want to point out that Secret has spent their gold well. Going for the mobility boots when you have a Ziggs is always a win, especially when they have the TP to look to plays proactively like we saw from Soul earlier. I have to say that from the Rascal Jester bot lane, I know everybody likes them, but for some reason I just couldn't really say that they were the best. But they are really starting to prove it this game. They are showing why they are a really scary bot lane to face down, where Hollow and Reiner should be attempting to contest, but frankly just the picks and the way they're playing out the lane just does not allow them to do it. Ace needs to be giving them some attention to swing this back, because the top side of the map plays have not been going in your favor for V3.
Yeah, like I mentioned, Ace hasn't really got involved as Cog is getting involved with Kanatu's health bar, taking half of that away, thank you very much. Still able to do a lot as we see Rascal Jester's members arriving in the top side. Ace does have access to that Destiny Gate, and we could see a fight brewing. Rift Herald somewhere by Muujin, Hatchamech is in the area, but he's not going to pull the trigger just yet.
And the worst part about this is you can't really contest because there's only 30 seconds till plates fall, so all you have to do for Rascal Jester is buy time.
Oh, Muujin might be biting off a little bit more than they could chew as Ace dives into the backline. They're able to kill Kanatu very easily. Very nice play by Recap, though, as he knocks up multiple members and gets the disengage off. Reina going into the bot side, but he'll just be dying. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow doesn't quite connect as Hatchamecha will slay Ace. And in the bot side, the Ziggs is falling as well. There's fighting happening on multiple sides of the map, and it's favoring V3. Cog picks up another kill, and Hollow kites away from Secret, who cannot do the damage, but will be able to just get out.
Finally, V3 with a recovery play that was oh so necessary, and it started off with them just trying to force the ticket, and they will end up coming out on top, not only being rewarded with the top tower and the first blood tower and a kill on the bot side and the top side jungle of Rascal Jester being stolen. However, look at who this is, TP. It is Soul, who should be able to chase them down. No flash or heal on Hollow. They won't commit further though.
Yeah, Rhino was coming through in the area. You don't want to overcommit onto an Ashe because she can cut you so easily as we go into this replay.
And I was a bit worried about Ace coming up here because initially the 3v3 didn't seem in their favor, but they just put so much damage straight onto Kanatu that with the yellow card lock up into the finish from Cog, it is so well done. And when it's a 2v3, you really can't face this fight. Ace tanks the tower, let's say a couple too many times. But on the bot side, I don't know if we're going to get that counter replay, but we did see there was actually Rascal Jester's bot lane forcing the ticket, because as you see here, this is just V3 taking advantage of the lead they already have, and it was just a mirrored play where it ended up going 1-for-1 on the bot side and not actually resulting in any good counter from Rascal Jester.
as it does push the lead in favor of V3. 1.5k up as we're getting a replay of that bot lane play, just like you asked for, Melvin Izzle.
I'm just going to point out in the corner that we do have a Viego being forced on, but yes, you see right here, this is just a counterplay where Rascal Jester say, hey, we're going to at least try and get a kill, as I'll stop there.
As Muujin is being killed in the middle of the team fight, V3 may have overstepped slightly. The Mega Inferno Bomb doesn't quite do the damage that it needs to. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow doesn't quite hit either. As here comes the Ziggs, here comes Secret, there goes Reyna walking it out. Here comes the Fate Unsealed from Recap as off our screen. Ace is slain, and one more hit will do it. Recap picks up another kill.
Nicely done, punishing the oversteps that V3 had done, and every time this team finds themselves in the driver's seat, they swerve a little bit too much, they stay far too long running out of fuel, and not spending their money means that they are just going to get punished once again by Rascal Jester, which the gold matter isn't really something to look at, but it's mainly just a tempo on the map that it gives you, with the Infernal spawning in 4 seconds, the Rift Herald currently being taken by Rascal Jester. I feel like this game is entirely made up of replays, because these two teams do not want to let their foot off the pedal, and it's Kanatu barely escaping, but just buying time with the team for their Spectrum, or Recap ran out of fuel right there, and it is unfortunate, but the overextension from V3 is far too much, and they get punished for it here.
Yeah, Kanatu just stays alive for so long. The Mega Inferno Bomb comes out, does a lot of damage to V3, and that Blast Cone means that Ace is basically not in this fight at all. Secret going forward, can make the play onto Reyna in the end, with Recap picking that one up. And then the hookshot wall dive. It's the second time Kanatu has picked up a kill like that, where he just chases even further forward, and he's able to get the play off. Meanwhile, in the top lane, we see the Rift Herald summoned by Rascal Jesters, but they weren't able to take that inner tower.
Have to acknowledge though, I'll stop. Oh my.
Oh no, it's just more fighting all the time, Melvin Izzle. Secret will be taken down. There's a lot of ultimates burnt in the mid lane. Rascal Jesters could still look for this fight. Do still have the tools available, Glacial Prison and the Fate Sealed, but will not go for it.
You finished now, guys? Finished with your shenanigans? Gonna let me make a point? I was going to do it in your favor, V3. I was just going to say that we saw a very familiar game state last game where V3 were down 2 dragons on the blue side, and despite having the lead elsewhere, they were going to... Okay, fine.
Okay, Hollow's just dead here. Way too much damage from Soul. Going to pick up the shutdown, and it could potentially be mid lane tower going over to Rascal Jesters. Still have that satchel charge available. Tick, 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 boom. Goodbye.
So, taking a look at the map state as of current, it is going to be a tower traded now. And the thing is, when you have the Twisted Fate and the Ziggs, you kind of have parallel game plans, but you execute them on very differently, where you both want to be pressuring, with just Ziggs having infinite wave clear. They can facilitate the Viego plus Sejuani or the Camille onto the Camille to try and make plays there, or even looking with the Yone onto the mid lane. There's a lot of tools that Rascal Jester have, and we need to see them be proactive, because one of the reasons that V3 did lose their last game, one of the reasons that we saw earlier losses in the day, was just having a good game state and not doing anything with it, right? You have a lot of gold on these carries, you just need to keep fighting. Your Ziggs is at 2 items. How insane is that? If you hold anybody still, they will just die. I really hope that we do see a potential Abyssal Mask picked up for Hachimecha here, because when you combine that with this comp, increasing the damage of your team by 15% is insane.
Oh, as the Solar Flare lands, not quite connecting onto Hachimecha, as Muujin is going very far forward, perhaps a little bit too far. He's going to be the first kill of the fight, going over to Rascal Jesters. Going to be the only one, as the volley comes out from Ashe and disengages entirely. Recap pushing very aggressively on this side lane. Could look to threaten this inner tower.
And I think the reason that Rascal Jester's comp is coming out on top here is because they have proactivity in no matter how they allocate the lanes. Whereas if you look at V3, they just aren't able to get it done. They require Twisted Fate to be the real initiator and then following up on top of it, which just means that Rascal Jester have way more uptime on the map. They are always able to look for a play. They're always able to get something done, because you have Sejuani, you have Yone, you even have Ziggs. If they manage to zone somebody away from a tower, that facilitates anybody going in. You have an Alistar on top of that with Hex Flash. When you look at the flip side, V3, the reason that they are ahead 2 dragons is because they have been able to get to those objectives first and really just focus them down. But if you are getting zoned out by the Ziggs later on, when it comes to fighting over this Baron that will presumably happen after the next Dragon, it is something that we're going to need to see them trying to play a 1-4 a bit better than they have currently, because they just really aren't pressuring the map. And when you have a Camille with Ignite TP, they can't get the flash hook shot in team fights, so it's something that they really do need to be a scary side lane that they just are not yet.
So Cog doesn't really win the matchup into Knatu or Recap?
I would not say it's as decisive as they want it to be in this current moment, especially when you consider that if you do go for the Hextech ultimatum to collapse on somebody, that's the exact same range as the Ziggs ultimate. So you are basically forced into your own ultimatum now in return, where you can either keep the enemy there and keep fighting them even if you are favored, but you will probably die to the Ziggs bomb plus combo, as Ace is in a bit of a weird position right now. They do have the Ghost and Flash, so they are going to walk it out. I'm going to throw it out there. They've got Everfrost plus the Rapid Fire Cannon. Ace is so much of a facilitator. They just have no damage, which isn't a problem, but it requires them to be with somebody else, like holding hands with a buddy, as they do use the Destiny just to clear top wave. This is, I'm not going to say great when you have 30 seconds before the Dragon.
Yeah, V3 just sort of seeding pressure around this objective massively. Cog's already on the bot side, so it's not like they even have someone that can TP in. I'm assuming Ace has got a couple of pages in his unsealed spellbook that maybe we haven't seen yet and could use that summoner spell, but if this is the lane assignment from V3, then they're seeding pretty much their only active win condition right now.
Ooh, this is definitely a way to approach it if they do try and pressure the Baron. They do have vision control over the area, but I believe that may be a trinket chucked on the objective, and they're not even going to try and threaten it. Guys, you can't do this. You can't just give up a dragon for nothing. You need to actually pressure. That means Ace needs to be hitting the turret. You need to be threatening the Baron. You can't just give this away. You're against the Ziggs. He can just keep the game going for however long they fancy. Oh no, this is really not what you want from V3, just giving up tempo for the sake of giving it up. And just considering the champions in this game, it gets worse and worse for V3. Not as cataclysmically as we saw earlier for the Hawks, by the way, but still pretty damn bad if they allow this game to go late.
That's something we saw from them last game as well. They gave over 5 Drakes to CGA. They haven't really played around the objectives that they needed to right now. Yeah, they picked up a couple of Drakes early on this game, but it's really that third one that breaks the game open and can be so decisive. So to just hand that over for free, definitely an interesting decision to make. They are still in a deficit, around about 3.5k, although it's not massively impactful at this stage of the game, setting up a trap in the bot side river. But guys, there is no reason for Rascal Jesters to walk there.
I imagine that the reason V3 didn't want to fight there is because they are just a little bit off of important item spikes. Hollow does not have their Immortal Shield Bow yet. Mugen does not have their Sterax yet. They are just very close to these important ones that can really swing a fight, add that extra survivability that enables them to get away with being jumped on by the Yone plus Ziggs and actually walk away to tell the tale. However, with the Infinity Edge, second item completed for Recap, and the stopwatch, I would be absolutely shaking in my boots if I was Hollow.
I might be shaking if you beat Survivor Zarena, who pops over the wall there. Secret, you got to press Q after you press W. Basic Alistair mechanic, but it's fine. Does secure Rascal Jester's more pressure around this Baron, so they can clear out all the vision that V3 tried to put down, as it was never in doubt. Ryder easily able to escape from that situation, but again, it's V3 giving up pressure when they don't really need to.
And now, by giving up pressure, if you allow Sol to push away from the turret, it will give you a window to force. You can collapse up here with Cog walking through the bot river, because the thing is, while it is important to keep your mid lane tier 1 tower alive when you have Ziggs, you can't really push much further as Ziggs on their own, as now they are aggroing the Baron. Take a look at the response. We've already got the base coming out from Knatu. They are going to be able to TP to the play first if needed.
Yeah, we got Secret diving onto Reyna, the TP coming out like you mentioned. A V3 in a potential 4v5 here as Cog continues to push on the bot side of the map. That's the ultimate, landing immediately onto the Twisted Fate, and Sol will take him down with ease, and V3 lose all pressure around this Baron as Cog TPs in way too late.
That's not how you do this play. You need to be pressuring the bot side right now, as now they're just going to run through mid and try and draw pressure here. I mean, you're getting tower, which is fine, but you are flipping the objective. Where on earth is Mugen? They're approaching through the river. Reiner, I didn't see if they have wards. Keep an eye out. They can spam vision down periodically.
Oh, the dive immediately going onto Hollow, cutting through him like butter. Recap hands that one over to Sol, who's been putting in work on this Ziggs. Mugen needs to be alive for this Baron steal to be a hope, but it probably won't be. Flashed onto by Hatchemetra as Reina goes over the wall, dived back onto by Recap, and the Sejuani will chase away Mugen as V3 go for the engage again, but once more, Rascal Jesters frustrate them.
Nobody dead from the Rascal Jester squad, but that has been a lot of cooldowns used, and now Cog is still in the area with that Ignite, and Ace is respawned. They are ulting in, they are going for the fight. They at very least need to get them off the objective.
Mugen might be falling off Summoner's Rift there as he falls down immediately. There's no smite available, and V3 will just have to run once again. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow will fire through, landing onto Hatchemetra, but it's not going to change the fight. Ace flashing forward. The wonderful Zhonya's by Soul as Cog is head-butted away. Recap dueling with him on the backside of the map. They are able to take down the Viego, but they will take down the Camille as well. One more hit doesn't quite connect as the Glacial Prison doesn't do the damage, but the damage is already done. Baron goes over to Rascal Jesters.
2 consecutive team fight wins to Rascal Jester, losing a single member in the process and 1 tower in the mid lane. How elegantly done from this team to secure themselves a cataclysmic lead. And let's take a look at how it happened, because this was a slow fight right here. Cog leaves and then comes back in a few moments, as right now this is the 3rd or 2nd attempt of trying to actually zone the objective, as there's just nothing you can do as Hollow here. You're just gone. Sorry, as against Hollow here, because with that combo it's just too much damage. And now you see the solo laners just being the nuisance. This will be junglers trading flashes, which means that now it's even more difficult for Mugen to go for a steal. So they turn back, say, all right guys, 3rd time's the charm. You have Cog pressuring down, does get that mid tower, but Ace, they ult in and they really just can't do much. They don't have the damage to offer. It's just CCing and trying to buy space for Cog, which they do a good job of, mind you. Look at how long Cog stays alive in what is effectively a 1v5 with CC in the form of the TF. Beautiful, beautiful Zhonya's right there, keeps Sol alive. And they do get the chase down onto Cog that does get them out eventually, despite how close it looks. But really, it just doesn't matter, because losing this Baron is so bad when you are against a Ziggs, a Yone, a Sejuani. Rascal Jester should easily be able to end on this push.
Yeah, Cog pushing through in the top lane. He's had a fine performance this game. Couple of bad TPs here and there, but has been doing sterling work on this Camille, but his team has just collapsed around him, and now this inhib tower being threatened. Recap recalling to deal with the Camille split, which does use the Fate Sealed onto Cog, deals so much damage immediately, and will not quite be able to take it down as Cog dashes away, but it's more time built for Rascal Jester to push through. They ended up grabbing an inhib in the bot lane. Huge objective take.
Yeah, I like the idea of what Ace was going there, but they needed to commit their life to it to just delay this wave, because you don't have the wave clear on your team to actually stop these minions. And as soon as Ziggs makes their way over, they are going to be able to just auto-attack this tower and put it in W range very quickly. Minions are dead though, so they have bought enough time for this one. 30 seconds, another minion wave to go. I would be surprised if they manage to repel this push mid, but they need to look for a really quick engage.
Oh, that's a miss, Solar Flare. Not the engage that you wanted. Gold card onto Alistair again, not going to connect. And Recap is pushing in the top side. The Super Mega Inferno Bomb zones away V3 as Rascal Jesters now have a free access onto this mid lane inhib, and the inhib tower will be falling in due course, as meanwhile Recap pushing through on the top side of the map. Rascal Jesters just playing by the books, taking away V3's base, taking away their health bars as Mugen falls incredibly low. A little bit of an over-aggression by Hatchemetra. Exhaust now onto the Sejuani, can't deal the damage as Cog is here as well. Would be a 5v5, the last 5v5 of this game. Rascal Jesters, they're trying to close, and V3 looking for a miracle.
If Sol is ever allowed to auto a tower, then it is basically without repair right now. This is just protect the Ziggs.
A Recap getting stunned here. Could this be the angle? No, can't capitalize on it. Cog trying to kill people with those precision protocols, and Rascal Jesters will just back away. They have taken everything from V3's base. We'll leave it in shambles.
Really no actual requirement to end the game there, because you've got the 3 inhibs in such succession. You have about 3 minutes now left on the table, while there's no other objectives on the map, where you can just walk up and threaten the base. collect all your gold on the way. That's realistically all you need to do. We will see some stopwatches coming out from the Rascal Jester squad. I like this. Got the full GA now on the Yone, the stopwatch for Kanatu, and the Zhonya's 4 items on Sol. This Ziggs is a monster, and when you have triple TP, the worst part is, even if V3 win a fight, if they manage to ace Rascal Jesters, push down mid, there's always the terrifying prospect of getting TP'd on by the massive minion waves and just losing that way. There is absolutely nothing V3 can do to win this game in the next 2 minutes, so they just have to not lose it as much as possible.
Just don't lose. It's easy enough to say, but very difficult to do when you're in this scenario. Down 7,000 gold, down so much pressure. The item advantages, like you mentioned, so far in favor of Rascal Jesters. Hollow has just completed that last whisper, but might be the last whisper for V3 as the Mega Photobomb comes out. Ace is already on half HP and is forced to back away. Well, recap going in. The Fate Unsealed dodged away from by Hollow. And Mujin pops the ultimate as well. Coco diving forward as Secret is disengaging for Rascal Jesters. The minion waves are here. The damage is being done to the towers. Coco's trying to stop it. Beautiful engage from Secret as he finds 2 members. And the kills are going over to Rascal Jesters. The bot lane of V3 is down. Kinatu is dealing the damage on the backside. Recap will drop Cog on the other side. And that's the killing joke for Rascal Jesters as they take down V3 in what was an absolutely dominating fashion.
Rascal Jester secure first place again, being chased by DFM, but they managed to keep their lead for another week, putting themselves in a very good position heading into tomorrow for the second half of Super Week. V3, though, faltering again, a 4-loss streak for the team that was tied with Rascal Jester, ruling the league. Not what you want to see, especially, I keep saying it, but now there are 3 teams, Axis, the Hawks, and V3, all 2 games ahead of Sengoku.
It's starting to look very rough at the bottom of the table. It's a place that V3 didn't envision themselves a few weeks ago. But meanwhile, Rascal Jesters, they came out in spring with an absolutely stunning performance to reach second in the regular split. And they haven't slowed down at all. They had the break in the offseason. They had the break before this Super Week. This is a team which is continuing to go from strength to strength.
I have to say, the fact that they are adding more tools to their arsenal with every game, willing to test out earlier on today in their previous game, and then pull out the comp again with only minor changes, if not upgrades, you can argue, having the Ziggs when you have these double solo laners that have so much physical damage. Realistically, this team is rightfully holding first place with DFM just barely trailing behind, only 1 win. It is going to be them in sole possession of second place now, starting to get a slightly more defined table, I say, with realistically there still being only 3 wins between first and sixth, but you know, it's better than we had coming into it.
Better than we had indeed, and this feels so good. This is so good for the LJL in general, because for so long this has been a league where it's all been DFM. We've had sparks, we've had teams challenging them at points, but no one has really been able to put up the consistent dominant performances that we do associate with Detonation Focus Speed. Rascal Jesters, they're not clowns. They are terrifying if you're playing against them. Have been consistently excellent, and really, they look like the strongest team in the LGL right now.
You want to hear a secret there, my friend Middlecott? Well, tomorrow we have got Rascal Jesters versus DFM. Something that I feel like everybody should keep their eyes peeled on, because that will be the time for definitive answers to see which of these teams is actually on better form. They've both had time to warm up, had a day of good games. The pair of them going 2-0 right now, looking in solid form, is going to be DFM on that 7